Hey, converted man here. Oh, don't you just love Cliffy Knechtle, whatever his name is? He's been around forever. He's old. And his videos are old. I mean, like, they're ancient, but the shorts that people keep uploading of him get traction and get seen, and people are like, oh, I like this guy. It's like he's saying stuff that makes sense. It's just he appeals to the common man. But if you understand logic, you can't like this guy because he loves logical fallacies. And if I like logic, then I don't like people that do logical fallacies. So, yeah, so over and over again, this guy does many fallacies. He shifts the burden of proof. I've seen him do that many times, but he seems to really be fond of the appeal to consequence. The logical fallacy that occurs when you use the consequences to try to determine whether or not the thing is true or false. So I summarize it as thus. I say, if X is true, then bad thing. So we don't want X to be true then, because then bad thing would be true. So we say, well, X can't be true then. AI comes up with a few examples of appeal to consequence on Google. Belief in the theory of evolution leads to eugenics, so therefore the theory of evolution is false. So here, X is the belief does this leads to this bad consequence, therefore this belief is false. Belief in God leads to increase in charitable giving, so God exists. So because this is a good outcome, therefore the other thing must be true, and so you can switch this around. Doesn't matter. The existence of gravity would make falling from a height onto a hard surface unpleasant, so gravity can't exist. And there's other things that explain the appeal to consequences in other ways. But essentially, it does boil down to that X, whatever X is, whatever the thing is, if that's true, then this other thing is also true. If I want that other thing to be true, then I think the first proposition is true. If I don't want the other thing to be true, then the first proposition is false. As if reality depended upon my desire for the outcome to be true or false. I was in a discussion with somebody that I care about, and I was really tired, so I wasn't able to do very well explaining to them. But they say, well, but what if we're just, what are we if there's no God? Like, what is any of this? And, I didn't have an answer because I was really tired at the moment. I couldn't think. But now, of course, I've had time to think. I've gotten my rest and gotten my sleep. And it's like, now I've got all the responses I could have given. Whatever we are, whether there's a God or not, is up for grabs. Because having a God doesn't guarantee any outcome for humanity. It doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean that we're special or chosen by God. That's not a guarantee either. So there could be a God, but it's the God of crustaceans, primarily the God of lobsters. And that God made the universe, and it made it for the lobsters, and everything else is a side effect of this creation. Made for whatever purposes, but ultimately for the lobster's benefit in some way, shape, or form. And there are problems, but there's problems because lobsters need free will or whatever. Why not? We couldn't say that isn't the case. But if there's no God, then X, Y, and Z is true, and I don't want X, Y, and Z to be true, so there has to be a God. Well, if there's a God, then whatever is true is true. And if there is a God, then whatever is true is still true. So the consequence of the thing doesn't change reality. What are we? Well, we're humans. What? Well, who came up with that? We did. Yeah, but what about laws? Who comes up with those? We do. But then they're imperfect. Yes, I know. Yeah, I know. But if there's a God, then it could tell us what the laws are. You don't know that. There's no guarantee of that. And yeah. Phone call in the middle of my live stream. I don't think so. Decline. All right. So no, it wasn't important. It was just a reminder or something. Now I lost my thought. Dang it. Okay, so the appeal to consequence is not a valid argument. X is true. I don't want that to be true. Therefore, it's not true. It's not a way to argue. But here this guy is, and he's going to do it anyways. Here's a few examples of him doing it. And, all right, let's check it out.
And if reality is that I'm a hunk of primordial slime evolved to a higher order, I'm not going to go around saying, I have worth, I have value. No, sir, I'm going to face reality. And reality is there's no difference between me and the leaf.
Okay, so that's rather silly because there is differences between you and the leaf, even if we came from a hunk of primordial slime. So again, this is an appeal to consequence. I don't want it to be true that we're really just from a hunk of primordial slime. So these consequences, that if that's true, I would be no different than that leaf. That can't be the case. Therefore, we can't have come from a primordial slime. Therefore, there must be a God that we came from. Because otherwise, these consequences that I believe in would be true, and I don't want those consequences to be true, so it has to be false that we came from primordial slime. Not because there's any logical reason, but because I don't want the consequences that I believe in to be true.
Between me and the stone, I just exist. So does the tree. So does the rock. And I'm not going to go around saying, we human beings have this intrinsic value. We don't, sir. Our number came up in a Monte Carlo game. This whole thing's an accident.
Yeah, it could very well be an accident. That might be the true nature of reality. And you could still potentially say we have worth. But again, that's not really the point. The point is, here's these things that I don't want to be true. Therefore, those things can't be true because I really don't want them to be true. I really don't like that they're true. And so I'm going to pretend that they're not true. That's the illogic of the appeal to consequence. It could be true that we don't have any worth. That could be true. And then that's the way it is. He's like, well, then we can't go around saying whatever. Yes, we can. Sure, we can. There's nothing to stop us from doing that. But again, even if we couldn't do that, honestly, that doesn't make it not true. So it's just appealing to consequence. That's all this is. But I'm not done, because he's got more appeal to consequence.
Your choice is God.
Yes.
And if you want to change it tomorrow and do the opposite, that's just as legitimate. See, that's the absurdity of life if there is no God.
Okay, so there's an absurdity of life if there's no God. So life is absurd if I don't have $1 million. So I must have $1 million then. Otherwise, life is absurd. Well, wait a minute, but I don't have $1 million. So I guess life must be absurd. Wait a minute, though. Life might not be absurd just because I don't have $1 million. Does it mean that life is absurd either. It also works the other way around, or I should say it doesn't work the other way around. You not having a certain amount of money in your bank account doesn't change the fact of whatever it is that you're going to say is the consequence of that being the case. I don't have 10,000 in my bank account, and if I don't have 10,000 in my bank account, then I'm very sad, and I don't want to be very sad, so I must have 10,000 in my account. That doesn't make me have 10,000 in my account, though. What if I'm not sad, though? I'm not sad, so therefore I must not have, do I then have money then if I'm not sad? No. It doesn't change things. The consequence doesn't change the reality. One more.
Creates us with this innate ability to genuinely love. If there is no God, the Duke University student was correct when he said, love is simply a biological drive to preserve the genetic pool. And I said, sir, do you really think that's what motivates Mother Teresa to work among the dying in Calcutta, India?
Okay. So if there's no God, then this person that said this thing about love is correct, and I don't want that to be true, so it can't be true that there's not a God. By the way, also, you can't explain the behavior of this person unless there's a God. So I guess there's a God. Well, one, we can't explain the behavior of that person without God, using just the fact that we're chemically driven by emotions to some degree. And secondly, even if we couldn't explain the behavior of any given individual, that doesn't make you right. And then, of course, we go back to the problem of it's just a big old appeal to consequence. I don't want it to be true that there isn't a God. So here's all these things that I think would be true if that's the case, and those can't possibly be true, so there must be a God. No. Whether there's a God or not is independent of whatever bad stuff would be then true or whatever good stuff would be true. If there's no God, then, oh, what was me? We're all just meaningless, whatever. Well, how do we know that? Why can't we have meaning without God? Those are assumptions being made about God and its connection with humanity or humanity's connection to God or whatever. Those are all additional beliefs you're stockpiling on top of the other beliefs that you already have. And as I said before, we're not guaranteed anything if there's a God. Just because there's a God, that doesn't mean that it cares one bit about humans. There might not be an afterlife, but there's a God. God made the universe just to see what would happen. It was bored one day. There's no guarantee. You don't know. Well, there's faith. Oh, yeah, of course there's faith. But you can believe anything with faith. That's not a way to get to the truth. That's just a way to arrive at a belief. And that belief should, I think, be grounded in reason. There are reasons I believe in other humans. Not just on the surface level that I believe they exist, but I believe in their potential to do good. I made a video, what I'm not skeptical of as kind of a Christmassy type of message. And also, I was being honest with that. That's really, I'm not skeptical of those things. So if you haven't seen that, go check it out. It's on my live playlist. You'll find it. What I'm not skeptical of. Because there are things that I can believe in, but the sort of belief I have is not the sort of faith belief that's just based on desire for it to be true. It's based on observation and data and information that I have to make a reasonable conclusion. Now, I could be wrong. Not all people are going to fulfill the things that I want to be true, but some people are, and that's good enough. I can absolutely believe in somebody's ability to do things. Whether they do things or not doesn't matter. If this person doesn't come to my party, then they're not my friend. So they're going to have to come to my party. Oh, there's that appeal to consequence, right? That there's all sorts of reasons why they might not come to my party, and that they could still be my friend, and they could come to my party but not be my friend. So we have to disconnect these things. But the appeal to consequence works on a general audience who doesn't necessarily know about logical fallacies like the appeal to consequence, which is so why it's important to learn informal logic, learn some, if not all, of the logical fallacies. Now, what's important to note is that none of this is meant to say there's no God. I'm not saying that. I don't know if there is or isn't. I don't even know what God is, if even it is a thing other than an object of the mind. I know it's that for sure. If it's more than that, okay, fine, but I don't believe that. But the point of pointing out bad argumentation is not to say, well, the argument sucks, therefore it's not true. No. The point is to say, hey, your argument sucks. Go fix your argument. Because right now, I have no reason to agree with you because your argument is broken. It don't work. Your appeal to consequence means nothing to me. I don't care. Whatever is true is true. Oh no. Thing bad. The humanity. Oh well. That's how it is then. And whatever reality is, we're going to have to contend with it. We're going to have to learn to cope with it and deal with it. Or not. I guess you could pretend that reality isn't the way it is. You can, I guess. You have options, I suppose, but I think it's better to accept it on its own terms. And there's mystery. There's still mystery of reality. There's lots of mystery. And you can label that mystery God. That's fine. But don't use bad arguments. That's all I'm trying to say. And Cliffe does nothing but use these bad arguments as far as I can tell. And unfortunately, it plays towards the emotions of people who already believe in God. They hear it and they go, yeah, that sounds right. If there is no God, then this thing is true. And they're not thinking through it. They're not thinking through that this is a consequence-based argumentation that doesn't work logically. It just sounds good to them. If there is or isn't a God is independent of the bad argument. But why not make a good argument? I don't know the answer to that question. But I do know that when somebody has a bad argument, what you must do is be skeptical of the conclusion. That means to hold the conclusion in question until they come up with a better argument that isn't full of fallacies. They come up with data or tests or empirical evidence that shows that the thing is true. And until they do, be skeptical of their conclusion. And yeah, of course, Mother Teresa wasn't really a good person. Tending to the sick, well, more like overseeing their slow demise. But whatever. And why she did it? Religion. That, she did it. Maybe she did it to be well known and famous. I don't know. Doesn't matter. Anyway, all right, that's all I've got for now. Cliffy loves his logical fallacies, and he needs to stop and repent and come to the side of reason and attempt to make a valid and sound argument for God. I'd love to see that. I don't think it's going to happen, though. Until next time that I encounter you in this format or others, be skeptical. And after that, stay skeptical. Thanks for watching. Okay. And that's it. Okay, cool. All right. Also, isn't Cliff like a bar, a chocolate bar? Yeah, it's like some sort of chocolate bar. Yeah, there's a Cliff bar. It's an energy bar. Yeah, I knew I was right. Yeah, and it's got the guy hanging off the cliff. It's like, eat this. It will make you mountain climb somehow. Oh, shit, I'm still on the line. Oh, no! I ruined the end again. No!